goes on to be able to share with us. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to stand on the well-established protocols. I want to use this opportunity to say a big thank you to the organizers of this event for inviting me to speak. I also wish to say a very big congratulations and happy birthday to my professor, Professor Nubi, who was celebrated earlier today. So today we're going to be talking about something very important, and that is building support for the affordable housing agenda through collaboration. So I have a short presentation. Please, if you can just project my slides, please. So while we're waiting for that, very early this morning, Mr. Jide and Olisa were having a conversation, and we're talking about how small our industry is and how small we are as individual players. Individually, we contribute very little to solving the big problem of affordable housing, but collectively, we can do a lot more. And I think that's the main essence of this subject. When we talk about affordable housing is almost like a hydra-headed problem. This is a problem that is multifaceted and multi-dimensional. One of the key areas of affordability is in its definition. What is affordable housing? What's affordable to Mr. X might not be affordable to Mr. Y. And so it's a function of incomes, primarily. So what is affordable is a function of how much you earn. And given our low levels of income in Nigeria, it becomes a very big challenge to provide affordable housing to the teeming population. Are we still having issues with the presentation? All right, I'll just proceed. So, who needs affordable housing? Affordable housing is everybody's problem. When we talk about affordable housing, we normally want to think about it as a problem for low-income earners. But affordable housing is really and truly everybody's problem because we all live in a community and it's a social problem. And if we don't solve the problem of affordable housing, we cannot solve the problem of national development. And so I'll just jump straight to why there's a need for collaboration in the provision of affordable housing. Basically, affordable housing is made more challenging because of certain factors. The access to land is a problem, and the cost of accessing land is a huge problem. There's a huge cost of producing houses, the cost of building materials and construction. There's inadequate access to finance and infrastructure. There are high taxes related to construction. There are fees to pay. There's the problem of the implementation of policies, and there's bureaucracy. We have a problem of skilled manpower and lack of cooperation amongst the different players in the real estate sector. So in order to solve these problems, we need to come together as a group and come together as different players in order to crack this nut. And so I'm going to be discussing the case for collaboration in 3 different areas. One area is collaboration between the public and the private sector, what some people refer to as the public-private partnership collaboration, or what some people know as PPP. The second area I'm talking about is the collaboration among, so if you can go, I've gone one slide before. Okay, yeah. So here I'm talking about making a case for collaboration. And the first one that I discussed is the issue of the public-private partnership. And I'm going to be discussing that in a little bit more detail shortly. Secondly is the collaboration among the different players in the housing sector. And then thirdly, the collaboration with players in other sectors. So let's go to the next slide. The collaboration between the public and the private sector is very, very important, given that in Nigeria, the government still controls access to land. And the government, whether we like it or not, is still in the provision of housing. And we can collaborate in the sense that we can leverage on the strengths of the government and the strengths of the private sector to deliver affordable housing and to reduce the cost of delivering houses. So on the side of the government, we can see that partnering with government will ensure that we have access to cheap land with good title. We can also bank on the government to waive some fees and charges and taxes, thereby reducing the overall delivery cost of homes. We can also look at fast-track approvals. We all, as developers, know sometimes how long it takes to get building approval, thereby adding to the cost and the complexity of affordable housing. And there are also the provision of strategic partnerships with government agencies and different ministries and offices that are involved in housing delivery. For the private sector can do some things more efficiently in terms of development expertise and bringing development capital and the execution discipline required to deliver affordable housing. That's an area where the private sector can really add value. So when these two come together, I think we have a winning. There are a few projects across the country that are blazing the trail in the area of PPP, both in housing delivery and infrastructure delivery. Next slide, please. In terms of players in the housing sector, that's exactly what we started talking about in the morning. Why are we all so happy to play small when we can play big? Someone said, if you're going to dream at all, you might as well dream big. Why can't we all collaborate and build new cities and build big projects? Individually, we contribute very little to the delivery of housing. Collectively, we can solve big problems. And that's why today I want to make a case for the different players in the housing sector to come together and collaborate and bring their strengths. Some players are very good at construction. Some others are very good at financing. Some are very good at project management. Some are very good at selling, marketing. If we can pull our strengths together, we can create products that are low cost and create products that the market really wants. Somebody this morning was talking about why build something that the people do not want? It's a skill to understand what the market needs and to provide what the market needs. So there's a big case for different players in the housing sector to collaborate. And today we are going to be talking more about that during this session and to see why it's a big deal for us. Next slide, please. The third area is collaboration amongst the players in the housing sector and other sectors. So this would involve the relationship between the housing sector players and financial institutions, for example, mortgage institutions, because we know that it's an affordability problem. If we have low-cost financing for developers, and we have low-cost financing for retail financing of homes, then we can begin to address the issue of affordability. Because like I said earlier, it's a function of how much you earn. And if you can stretch out the payment plans and you have more structured payment systems, then housing naturally becomes more affordable. Also, we've discussed this morning around technology. It's a big area that there's the need for collaboration. I don't think we are there yet because engineers always focus on engineering. But as developers, we also have to look at what is acceptable in the market. And so that collaboration would ensure that the technology for delivering affordable housing evolves over time, and we can deliver something that the market wants and at the cost that the market wants it. We need to look at different procurement systems. How do we source materials? Where do we source materials from? Almost everything we use for building today is imported to the country. Maybe we can collaborate with our manufacturers to look at ways in which some of the components of affordable housing delivery can be manufactured locally, and what kind of incentives manufacturers need to get, be it pioneer status, as we discussed earlier today, or some kind of tax holiday to bring down the cost of production. We discussed technology extensively, and I think we'll continue to talk about it because technology is the future. We need to collaborate with the academia. We also need to collaborate with the technology players to ensure that things like modular housing systems, 3D printing, and crowdfunding and things like that can definitely help us in bringing this dream alive. Next slide, please. So to conclude, affordable housing is a must for all of us. It's a social need, and it's an important tool for economic development. Earlier, in one of my slides, I talked about the numbers. So if you can just go forward a few slides that shows some of the numbers. Okay, here. We can debate the numbers, but what we can agree is that these are huge numbers. These are huge numbers in terms of our population, huge numbers in terms of the housing deficit, huge numbers in terms of the opportunity that we have. An estimate says that it will take about $363 billion to fulfill the housing need. It doesn't matter how you dimension it. Somebody's got to build these homes over time. This is a huge opportunity for all of us. It's very close to the GDP of the country, what is needed to deliver housing, because we have a huge deficit. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for all of us. I don't just see it as a problem, I see it as an opportunity that we all need to surmount. So let's go back to my conclusion slide. So finally, I believe very strongly that providing affordable housing is achievable, and we can achieve this through the creation of appropriate synergies and collaboration amongst the various stakeholders in the industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation and for also managing your time well without being prompted. We'd like to take on the next presenter, and that will be online, and that will be done by Toke Benson, the Senior Special Assistant SSA to the Lagos State Government on housing. Can we have her online? Are we on with her? Okay, she's on. Madam, you can please go ahead. We'd like to have your presentation. Yeah, you are on. Thank you so much. We'd like to welcome via Zoom Madam Toke Benson, the Special Advisor to the Lagos State Government on Housing. Madam, you are on. You can make your presentation. Thank you so much.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies. Good morning, Africa and the rest of the world. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to make that presentation right now. Mr. Roland Digbinoba is actually in the audience and will be taking the presentation. I'm actually in 3 different meetings and I would not want to be interrupted while doing the presentation. So Mr. Roland Digbinoba, please go ahead and make the presentation on my behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Five minutes. Please put my slides on. I stand existing protocols. Welcome everybody. Good afternoon. I see in the audience my big brother, Architect Dangiwa, who has actually inspired my topic. I'm speaking on building support for the affordable housing agenda through collaboration, but I've modified mine a little, to building support for the affordable housing agenda by building a 1 million naira house. I went to a forum somewhere where they said the FMBN have the most popular product in FMBN at the moment is a 1 million naira home improvement loan. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could use that money and actually build a house? And I took it as a challenge. This was over a year ago. But I'm happy to say that in the last few days, we've just finished that house. And I'm using the opportunity to invite everybody here to our site at Luvumada, 45 minutes out of town. It'll be a 3-hour to show you our estates. Our first 2 estates, Luvu 1 and Grand Luvu 2, have been bought up by Family Homes Funds. So they're actually Family Homes Funds estates in that area. Inside that estate, you will find the lowest cost house in the whole of Africa, built by a private developer in 2019. So that's one of the highlights of that trip. We will also, we're very fortunate to be celebrating our 1,000th house. We're a young organization by the grace of God, and through collaboration, and this is where collaboration comes in. We are happy to have been able to put up 1,000 houses, and we're celebrating that right now. So please come and celebrate with us. And then thirdly, it will be this 1 million naira expandable. We call it a tiny house, but it's expandable. So let me go to my presentation. I have just 5 minutes. So I'd like to speak about how my organization, the MFF Housing Limited, through its sister organization, the Millet Fowler Foundation, is building support for the affordable housing agenda through collaboration with, first of all, our local and international partners. Secondly, our other house building enterprises like ourselves, spread across the entire continent of Asia and Africa through the rail network. You heard that presentation by one of the directors of rail yesterday. They're working with a network of partners across those 2 continents, of which we are amongst. And we're able to collaborate with each other. And then thirdly, our clients, through a constant interaction with the target market, which is the 40th percentile, the bottom 40% of the population is our target. Can we go to the Just go back. Go back to the second slide. Okay, leave it there. So then next slide, introduction. So when Millett Fuller began building simple, decent, and affordable homes 55 years ago, first through Habitat for Humanity, and then later through the Fuller Center for Housing, little did he know how great a global movement he was triggering. He was able to galvanize world leaders to the urgency of eliminating poverty, housing, and homelessness around the world, and in the process housed more than 1 million people around the world before he died in 2009, still actively housing the poor through the Fuller Center for Housing. As the Nigerian affiliate of that organization, it took us 10 years to build our first 100 homes through donations from kind-hearted Americans across the Atlantic. It took us another 5 years to build an additional 900 homes to make it 1,000. And we are proud today to be celebrating not only 15 years in operation, but also our 1,000th home. A very modest achievement when viewed against the backdrop of the current housing deficit. And I'm scared to mention any figures. So, talking about collaboration, we could not have done it without our key partners, some of whom are present right here at this conference. And they include the Fuller Center for Housing based in the USA, Celavip International based in Belgium, Real UK on behalf of DFID or FCDO now as they're known, and CEDA, the Swedish Development Agency, Family Homes Funds, and I'm happy to see Femi right there, and Cooperation Agency, the German Cooperation Agency GIZ, our key partners in this work. Challenges. The challenges haven't gone away. They're still the same as they were 20, 30 years ago. We keep coming back year after year to talk about the same challenges. In fact, they appear to be growing more critical despite some bold initiatives, both from the private and public sectors. First of all, affordability. Access to home ownership within people's meager resources. We talk of affordable housing every day without regard to the earning capacity of the common man. It's just like that bastard child that won't go away. Just keeps coming and coming until you suddenly realize it's not just one bastard child. There are 2 of them. There are 3 of them. 4, 5, 6. How could daddy have done this to us? And spoiled the integrity of our fine and pristine home. More outside than inside. Yes. 4 out of every 5 Nigerians earns less than 50,000 naira a month. When a government program is unable to cater to the need of 80% of the population, then you know that we have a real problem. This is why MFF, despite having built homes which were sold as little as 240,000 naira when we started 15 years ago, is now ready to present its latest answer to Nigeria's affordable housing question. An expandable tiny house that grows with you and is able to fit the pocket of the minimum wage earner. The other problem that we've been talking about for years is the offtake finance, demand-side financing. The lack of long-term offtake finance continues to plague the market. But I hope that with the likes of NMRC here at the Abuja International Housing, we shall be able to hear some good news and great innovations that are in the pipeline. That's not to mention the likes of Family Home Funds or the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria with its popular home improvement loan of 1 million naira. Enough funds to actually help build our new expandable tiny house. Then, of course, there's the perennial Land Use Act. Another challenge that continues to be the Land Use Act, which apparently has no plans of going away anytime soon. We need innovative solutions, such as non-mortgage housing finance, housing microfinance. More than 80% of ongoing house construction is going on completely devoid of the Land Use Act, whether we like it or not. I know that because I live on the outskirts of the city, and I know that hardly any of my neighbors has obtained even town planning approval, not to talk of having a C of O on their land. So the informal land market is booming, and so is the development of housing in informal settlements. The reason our honorable minister said that Nigerians are not homeless is because most of us live in poor quality housing situated in such informal settlements. The houses may not be qualitative, but at least they match the size of our pockets. We need to come to terms with this reality rather than continue to sink our heads into the ground like ostriches. The FMBN Home Improvement Loan is a key to the future of housing finance. It's a non-mortgage product that is simple to access and relatively easy to repay. I like that project, and I was thinking, what if 1 million naira was able to start you off on your home ownership journey? So presenting our solution, next slide. Okay, we're there already. So the 1 million naira house is a 25 square meter expandable core house, which begins as a shell and is expandable in 2 separate phases, first to a 2-bedroom house and then again to a 4-bedroom house. The 1 million naira house is a tiny house. It's a tiny house solution that prioritizes not the fanciful whims and caprices of developers and governments that are aloof of the true need of its citizens, but the pocket size of the ordinary people. People are not asking for too much. All they want is a roof over the head that doesn't leak. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is my conclusion. Once again, I want to take this opportunity to invite you all on Thursday, 11 o'clock sharp. The bus will leave from the front there to our estates to come and see what God is doing in Masaka. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Sam. So many of you may not see when he was speaking was the vibration of his legs, because he was speaking with passion, because that is something he has been involved in, and that is something that he feels so passionate about. It's like his life mission to make sure that I will bring something for the masses of this Nigeria, and I'm happy he was able to key into that home renovation loan. We'll be able to address some of this. I have not forgotten that I promised you that I'm going to do one-day work, physical work. We discussed about 5 years ago, to go there and work and see how we can add value to what you are doing. Permit me to go to the next speaker, and we'll be able to invite the CEO of Blue Camel Energy, Suleiman Yusuf. You have the floor. Thank you so much. Let's clap for him as we welcome him. Still the same 5 minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. Permit me to stand on the well-established protocols. My name is Suleiman Yusuf, the CEO of Blue Camel Energy. I will first of all start by thanking the organizers of this event for this very wonderful event, which we have, I think, this is our 4th year of participating, and believe me, it has been the best point of collaboration for us as a company so far, because I will insist that the services we provide should be the starting point of any construction or building plan, which is energy. You know, we're a renewable energy company that has. Let me just quickly talk about our background. That's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss collaboration, but I would like to quickly mention that, you know, we're one of the leading renewable energy companies in Nigeria that has been into the business of solar and power backup systems for the past 12 years. We started with small home system power backup solutions, and we've expanded quickly to establishing a factory which is situated in Kaduna, where we assemble local products, street lighting, small home systems, and other renewable energy, you know, couplings. Blue Camel Energy is also has a training academy, because over time, the product we offer is one of the most difficult products to sell or to market, you know, any day, anytime, because there's been so much failure of the technology at the onset. So people don't believe in solar technology. And I can tell you that, you know, part of the failure is also largely because of the fact that the wrong people are engaged in providing, the services, which is the government, for example. This is not the business of the government. Government should stay behind and regulate the industry and allow the entrepreneurs to do the job. So I'll give you an example. Almost every village you go to in Nigeria, you see non-functional solar street lights or solar borehole systems. And everybody just have the impression or the idea that this technology does not work. But if you go deep down, you realize that the procurement process, the execution process, so many things are involved. So I won't talk much about that right now, but we have delivered so many successful projects across board, and I would like to highlight those that concerns the construction industry. Energy consumption, especially, for example, by solar water heaters alone, takes about 25% of electricity in our homes. 25% of electricity just for heating water. This is the same technology that, with a solar water heater, which smiles every day the sun comes out, you don't need to invest or lose that much money in heating water. But unfortunately, our construction industry haven't been paying much attention to energy efficient homes and energy efficient appliances as well as solar technology. But believe me, with the recent increase in electricity tariff, I've had a lot of developers knocking at my door, and I think it's a very good time for the collaboration to begin. Please, next slide. Next slide. I won't talk much about, I just have 5 minutes about the company, but basically, I'm going to talk about solar-based turnkey projects that we've executed over the years across the residential, commercial, and industrial sectors. Next slide, please. So what you see here is a greenhouse in Guzape, which is a project that was executed since 2015, about 6 years now. The 10 apartments here have been running totally off the grid. Mr. Festus was there at the onset of this project to see for himself and also to do a small documentary on this project. We haven't spoken much about it because we've taken that 6 years as a learning time to discover all the challenges and all the different ways that we can collaborate and integrate our solutions with building the real estate industry. What you see by the side there is also the latest battery technology, which is the lithium-ion battery, which has about 5 years lifespan. At the 5th year, our batteries went down, one after the other, which is a very good timing for a lead-acid battery. And afterwards, we decided to go with the new lithium battery technology, which we are banking on 10 years of lifespan. So this project has been on for the past 15 years, and it has given us a lot of information and ideas on how we can integrate these solutions with the real estate. Next slide, please. Now, this is a private residence in Efa Metropolis. This was just developed or commissioned last year. Every lighting you've seen on that building and all the appliances are totally powered on our solution. The inverters you've seen there are locally assembled inverter systems from Kaduna. And we also don't just install, because we've discovered that most of the time people, are scared of investing in our technology because they're afraid of what usually happens. Afterwards, 1 year down the line, your system breaks down, and you call the installer, he's nowhere to be found at the phone. So we back up our installations with 4 years, 1 year or 2 years warranty, depending on the product you buy from the onset, and another 2 to 3 years of after sales support. So next slide, please. So this is another project in making. It's called the Greenhouse 2 in Guzape, where we are now trying to develop or to prove that we can actually power luxury homes totally off the grids. This building has about 19 air conditioners that are totally running on the solar solution that are installed. It's not yet completed, but as you can see, each and every light in there is on solar. We don't even have a grid line or a generator that side. Next slide, please. So you can see that's the structure there. You can see different banks of solar PVs at the entrance carport, 2 other carports in the house, and a few other available spaces. You can also see that the entire rooftop is still not yet in use, We're reserving that hopefully to sell power to the next door neighbors once they're ready to afford power. Next slide. So that's another project in Yola. That's a mansionette which has about 22 air conditioners. It's also entirely powered on solar. This is one of our projects which was delivered since 2019. Next slide. So this is also another project in Guzapi which was delivered since 2015, and the apartment is actually a hybrid system running on about 60 numbers of solar PVs, which powers most of the critical loads in the house. Next. So this is another private residence in Zaria that has been running since 2018 on solar solution. So to cut it short, next slide, we've actually powered over 2,000 housing, small and medium housing across the country in the past 10 years of doing business, and we're still maintaining most of these solutions. That's a shopping mall also. It doesn't just stop on housing. We've powered a couple of shopping malls, like you can see on that slide. That's a shopping mall in Marava, which also runs entirely on our solar. This is a Sterling Bank headquarters annex in Ilupeju. It's been running on our solar solution since 2016, and solar powered billboards as well. So I just ran these few slides to let us know that it is already working and it's already in use in lots of places. But unfortunately, the real estate sector is not paying enough attention to renewable energy and power backup solutions. The reason for that is everybody is struggling to sell at the minimum price. But we fail to realize that the cost of power, over the first 10 to 15 years, if we're actually going to pay for the cost of energy, is over 10% of the cost of the property we're developing or we're selling. And a lot of times the amount of money we spend on diesel, especially where we try to, combine diesel and grid, which is hardly ever available, in some cases shoots our energy cost to over 100 naira per kilowatt hour. So I think it's a good time for us to begin full collaboration with renewable energy practitioners to see how, even if we don't have the cost, the funding to integrate these solutions at the point of construction, we should be able to work together to establish the required infrastructure, that will be required for us to engage the solar solutions on the long run. For example, I've come across so many clients who are interested at, in deploying solar water heaters on their buildings. But unfortunately, because it was not captured and integrated during the design in the M&E, it becomes very difficult to start cracking walls, breaking tiles, and trying to even providing the support structure that can carry those water heaters. So this calls for a very serious collaboration. Sometimes we've also had situations where people want to put solar on their rooftop, but they didn't envisage that they will use or put solar panels, so they didn't go for the appropriate gauge of the roofing sheet, or perhaps even go for a concrete deck. So these are all areas where we need to work together with the developers to see how we can, provide the basic infrastructure that, we can leverage on when it is actually, or whenever we're interested or we can afford to. Now, I'm going to talk about the applications of renewable energy solutions, affordability, and then what's new. I think, I'll quickly run over this. I'm running out of time. And what are the challenges? Please, next slide. So in terms of applications, next slide, please. Like I mentioned earlier, we have the solar water heating solutions. We have the solar inverter solutions, which could be either hybrid or standalone. We also have solar street lights and gardening lighting solutions. With these solutions, you're able to take off your entire cost of running perimeter lightings and even estate lightings off your, generator cost or grid cost. And we also have the solar water pumping solution, which reduces your cost a lot. If you're able to use solar pumps to pump water from underground to overhead tanks and use gravity to, circulate your water, you save a lot of water from solar pumps, from pressure pumps in your houses as well. So next slide. Now, affordability and cost benefits. From the research and from the project we've run over the years, especially the greenhouse, we've come to discover that the adopting solar solutions, if you can take a 5 years term or period, is actually 40% cheaper than a combination of diesel and grid. And that is even going to go up higher with the increasing tariff, electricity tariff and cost of diesel. Then from 400,000 naira, you can actually afford a convenient backup that keeps your house lit up and at least affords you TVs and fans in the house. So people usually think that you have to be, it's a multi-million naira solution. You actually can cut it according to your size as well. And there are also financing options available now, so it doesn't really have to be that solution where you must have the full cash. Next slide, please. So financing options, improved products and technology, and then improved technical know-how and engineering. This have also changed the skill. So the challenges are actually high capex. Most people can't afford to bring out all the funds in one go. So there are financing options that are taking care of that now. Then high failure rates, which I just explained, part of the reason that it's not the technology itself, but it's the product and the people that are actually integrating it. Access to financing has always been a challenge, but we can see that there has been a lot of effort from the federal government and from some, development banks like the African Development Bank. The World Bank is also funding a lot of renewable energy projects right now. And I think finally, the maintenance and after-sale support has been one of the reasons why these solutions have hardly worked. Next slide, please. So what is the future of this industry and how does it accommodate, or what's the opportunity for us to collaborate with the real estate sector? We have the power as a service, power purchase agreement, and lease to own. In what power as a service means is if you want the solution and you don't even have the funding, we could actually come and deploy the solution, put in our meters, and then get you to pay as according to your usage. Power purchase agreement is that solution where I can actually set up the solution and agree on a repayment plan, which takes off that capex issue. And then the lease means I can deploy the solution and then give you a payment plan or a payment time. So this is the future to resolve renewable energy. For example, we actually had to go into developing because we couldn't even get development partners or real estate partners that are willing to test or explore our solutions. And we set up that greenhouse in Guzapi 5 years ago. But believe me, since we set up that 10 apartments, the moment a tenant moves out, it doesn't take 1 week before another person moves in because electricity is guaranteed. And I think it's one of the things that we must not, we must always put into our building plans and decisions from the onset. Thank you very much. So for those that are interested, I think on Friday by 6 p.m. to 6:30, there will be an excursion visit to see live solutions of some of the flips we are shown here at Guzape. We are also exhibiting here, so from the stand you can get more information. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Suleiman. We'll be hearing this from Mr. Emmanuel Akinwumi, who is a principal private sector specialist, AFDB Group, here in Abuja. Emmanuel, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Let's give a clap for him as a counsel.
Standing on system protocol, I say good afternoon and thank you for coming to this forum. Speaking towards the last has its own implications. Sometimes you get yourself involved like unintentional plagiarism. Meanwhile, you prepare your stuff before coming. And sometimes your presentation tends to bring some element of contradiction to what others have said, but no contradiction. It's just a different dimension or perspective on the same nagging problem that we are all facing in the country. And now I have the first slide, please. Okay. I have a short outline here in a few slides to share my perspective about my understanding of this subject. The first one is redefining housing affordability, because if we don't have the correct definition of issues, we'll be applying wrong solutions. The second one is the need to collaborate. Why? What is the need for collaboration? And then thirdly, what I call the collaborators. Who are they? And then from there, I look at it on the supply side, and then went ahead to look at it on the demand side. We need to know the difference between the supply side of the chain and the demand side. And then I have a slide also for AFDB involvement. You may be saying, these people are just blowing grammar here. We don't know what the AFDB is doing for us. You will know today the areas of our intervention to support what is going on. And lastly, I have what I call take home, which is the summary of my presentation. In terms of definition of affordable housing, I say the notion of affordability is not about being able to afford to buy a home. It's more than that. Or to rent a home. Or you should be able to afford to live in it. Another issue which I want to bring to our attention is the social policy of the government on housing. In Canada, for instance, the policy is not 100% revolving around ownership. The policy is revolving around your capacity to live in a decent house, not necessarily to own a house. Owning a house is good, but let us be realistic. All those are our compatriots that are paying into National Housing Fund with a gross salary of 30,000 naira a month. What kind of house? Not even my brother here can help them to own a house. So we should stop deceiving ourselves in this country and review the policy of government about housing. House ownership, yes. But what about affordable rental also? A lot of Nigerians cannot even afford to rent a decent home. So we should look at that. We should also look at the one like a hybrid between the two. Rent to own. Rent a home for a period of time and later take possession. If you cannot afford to rent a home, why will you be able to afford to own a home? That's why in some developed countries, the same type of support they give to developers who build houses for ownership, they also give it to developers who build houses for rental. There are a lot of rich people in Nigeria who could invest into housing. Not only in the palatial mansions they live with their family, they also use the surplus of their fund to build houses, decent houses at affordable pricing for the poor. I also say affordability does not only cover meeting expenses of the house. It also includes consideration for infrastructure, transportation, and other services. That's why our Minister of Housing was saying that he doesn't believe there is 20 million shortage of housing in the country. Do you know why? There are a lot of houses unoccupied, empty, right inside the bush. Nobody can get. What about infrastructures like access roads, electricity, sewage, waste management, and all kinds of facilities? And then cheap houses located far away is a waste. It doesn't make sense. So why do we need to collaborate? That's my next slide. Thank you for that. A system where only a few can afford decent housing is not sustainable. Again, see the way I coined my sentence. I said decent housing. I'm not saying decent house ownership. So let's step a little bit beyond ownership. High cost of commuting for essential workers is not sustainable. You have for teachers, nurses, doctors, firefighters, police, they live very far away from where they work. It's punishment, it's national punishment, and it's very abusive, which have to be checkmated. Another issue that we don't look at is the need for expansion of existing dwelling. You have someone that acquired a 4-bedroom house from the grandfather, even the father is no longer alive. What are we doing to help that particular individual that has a large expanse of land to expand that house to create more room for other people to live there. What about improvement? What we call homes in Nigeria sometimes no homes. A home that doesn't have toilet facilities, no water, no sanitation facilities there. It's not the type of home that we are praying for here. And then, in terms of economic diversification, in Canada, for instance, I keep on saying Canada, but that's my second country. When the housing sector is coughing, the economy of Canada is sneezing. That is, there's a strong correlation between housing development and the economy. If you don't want to agree with me, look at this environment. This is housing. Do you know how many industries will contribute for everything that we are enjoying here? The brick and mortars, the roof, the floor, carpet, the seats, and so on. So when you promote housing development, you are promoting industries and you are promoting job creation. It's actually, apart from agri, we can say housing is the next in terms of economic diversification if it's well developed. And then looking at the issue of COVID-19, you know, there are a lot of billions of naira flying around in Nigeria for COVID-19 palliatives. We are advocating here that you should use this opportunity to put some of those resources into housing. How? You pump it into housing, checkmating the impact of COVID-19 at the same time developing housing. Something like power, for instance, health facilities, you know, potable water, sanitation, infrastructures, and so on. You can be doing that to checkmate COVID-19 at the same time. You are doing that to develop decent housing. Now, the collaborators. Who are we talking about now? Here. When you look at the issue of collaboration, you tend to look at off-takers and developers. It's more than that. No, it's not, those are not the two groups in the collaboration. We look at government, federal, states, and local. Though the local government has been trampled upon over the years in Nigeria, as if they don't exist anymore. When I was a boy, the local government was playing a noble role in national development. We are talking of repairs of primary schools, building of local tertiary roads, and so on. The governors don't allow them to work anymore. Most governors, don't let me say the governors, so that they will not go and wait for me and say, you will pass through this place today. We'll catch on with you. It's unfortunate, but that's the situation. The other group in the collaboration is the private sector investors. And like I said, these investors, this private sector, talk part of the accommodation. And then talk about housing input manufacturers, building materials. They are part of the people, the institution we collaborate with, then cooperatives, training and skill development centers, development finance institutions like the AFDB, the World Bank, and so on. They are waiting for collaboration. And then local banks, including mortgage bank and non-bank financial institutions like insurance companies. You know that in Canada, insurance companies, they provide over 10% of mortgage financing. Why can't Nigerian insurance company be doing the same thing? Maybe the policy is not there, which we need to untie. There are too much obstacles in the Nigerian environment that should be removed to allow things to work. If the policies are not there, if the laws are not there, it will be difficult for the institution to. The broker system is still not well developed in Nigeria. It's an avenue that can generate millions of jobs. The broker just stand between the lender, providing advisory services on both sides and making life easy on both sides. And of course, upgrading and expansion of provision of infrastructure and leaving abandoned cities. On the supply side, and collaborate with best practices around the world. We used to program in Canada, so with some of our colleagues here attend. Of course, we have minimization of bureaucracy in government. It's part of collaboration. Some government agencies which have been saddled with the responsibility of making life easy for housing development, some of them are actually obstacles. If I'm exaggerating, go to anywhere you like, including the FCT here. You want to do CO4 or whatever, call it whatever name, you will suffer before you get it done. It should not be like that. Those are supposed to be agencies that will be creating an enabling environment, not creating obstacles for development. And exploring alternative and local building materials is potent. On the demand side, innovatively embracing build to rent and shared ownership and equity. 10 of us here can form a club and we'll be investing into houses. It's better for you to be a co-owner of a group of property than for you struggling to have one unit for the next 10 years. Like the fella who used to sing about the fan, the parable of the fan. Someone who was struggling to buy a fan until the person passed away. Inflation did not allow him to buy the fan. If you have a situation where you can collaborate with others and become part owners, you can also make things happen. And then governments creating strong enabling environment, to mention that one, fast-track development of rent-to-own, incentivizing NGOs. NGOs is not only about mobilizing resources during disaster. NGO can also be bringing positive impact during peacetime by developing housing. And of course, microfinance institutions like LAPO, for instance, they are doing great in housing, the housing development. Now, the AFDB, what is the AFDB doing? Just blowing grammar. I'm not only blowing grammar. For instance, real estate and so on, but created an enabling. For instance, the shelter Africa that you see here, the African Development Bank is a key founder and shareholder of Shelter Africa. As a matter of fact, I think the MD of Shelter Africa, without FDB, there is nothing that we call Shelter Africa today. So you may not know that. Apart from that, we also have Equity in Development Bank of Nigeria and InfraCredit. All of those institutions can support the housing sector, but unfortunately, some of you don't even patronize them. You don't know how to reach out to them. You don't know that DBN can give you facilities to some other financial institutions or developers to do business. The LDB also has financed same DBN in terms of subordinated loan and also finances university hostels, which is part of a bigger loan that had been done before. And through line of credit, a lot of institutions benefit from AFDB's operations in the country. Marble manufacturing, tiles manufacturing, roofing, tiles, cement, and so on. They access line of credit through financial intermediaries like commercial banks, local development banks like the Bank of Industry, Nursing Bank, and the rest of that, and the commercial bank, the like of GT Bank, Zenith, and so on. They often patronize this line of credit and in turn on-lend them to housing development practitioners. Of course, we have trade finance facilities which are made available to banks, use them to facilitate import of raw materials and so on. And we also have partial risk guarantee, which can make access to financing much easier. Emergency liquidity facility was also provided during the period of difficulty like COVID to restructure loans and defer payments and so on. And then lastly, knowledge sharing. Like the one I'm doing here, even though I'm a director of Habitat International Housing Show, all those things come partly because of AFDBs that I'm representing the African Development Bank here today. The key take home is my last slide, is that number one, we should have a paradigm shift from silo housing development to community housing. The silo housing community is that you go to the bush, a road to nowhere, and start digging, cutting trees, bulldozing, By the time you finish your beautiful house, no access road, no sewage, no sanitation, no water, no electricity. And you start praying for all kinds of things and fasting for nothing. Community housing, the way it's being done in other parts of the world, like in Canada also. I keep on talking about Canada because I was a practitioner in Canada in the housing sector. Before you start putting your block, the government agency will invite stakeholders for a meeting. They will put a signpost somewhere. Members of the public, we are planning to build so much houses in this neighborhood. It will be completed within the period of 2 years. Go and mark the date within the 2 years to be done. If you have any problem or you criticize it or you don't like the idea, please let us know. I don't think that's what they call community engagement. They don't do most of that in Nigeria. They are building the house you like, go there. When you see some very strong policemen with guns, you will pick race. All those things have to change. That is community engagement. Not that alone. How you see Christian school. If it's Nigeria, why can't we have Christian school and Islamic school, nursery school, shopping mall, all kinds of facilities, hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, they will all come together. And as you are negotiating to have a stake in it, the government is collecting taxes from you. So before you start building, the roads are done, the water is there, electricity is there, ICT, telephone, everything you need is already there before you start building. And you don't need to build also, you can buy. You pay your deposit in installment, they give you design issues. 2 years time, go back there. It's as if that was not where you saw 2 years before. Everything is done there. That is what they call community housing. And the government makes sure that you don't send your children to school outside that community. So if you want to go to Islamic school, it's there. You want to go to Catholic school, it's there. You want to go to a secular school that have nothing to do with the religion, everything is there. So that the children don't suffer. Trekking or going from Keke Napep to, we don't know what is Keke Napep over there. Keke Napep to bicycle to motorcycle and every kind of thing in the morning. And the parents will abandon their job and go far away to drop their children. You will live in that community. That's what we call community home. So this engagement continues. It's not going to stop here. And I thank the organizers, including my brother and friend, for organizing this thing. And I think we should encourage dialoguing also at different levels, not coming only once in a year. And I will continue to put resources together and collaborate. This country will be a better place to live for every one of us in terms of shelter. Thank you so much.
I most sincerely appreciate all the speakers. It's not easy to prepare something for days and weeks, and then you are given a short span of time to be able to make that presentation. So I appreciate that sacrifice, and I know that all the presentations are available. If you meet them at the IT department of Abuja International Housing Show, you'll be able to have copies of them to make sure that you deeply understand what is being shared. Thank you so much once more, Emmanuel. We'd like to welcome the founder, Greenland Concepts Nigeria Limited, one and only Kemi Shijuade, MNI. You are welcome, please. You have the floor. Let's clap for her to come.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The last speaker already mentioned that it's not an easy task for the person that speaks last when it comes to a panel like this. I hope so, sir. So I believe that a lot of issues, a lot of points have been made on this particular topic that we are speaking to. So let me first of all thank the organizers of the Abuja International Housing Show for the invitation to join this panel. speak to the paper that I have before me. I want to thank them for putting together this show, and more significantly, the whole event, which continues to be a place where housing practitioners can exchange ideas and explore new methods. Well done, sir. Our main topic for this panel is around the need for collaboration in the delivery of affordable housing. The topic itself says support for the affordable housing agenda through collaboration. So I picked out three keywords from the topic, which is affordable housing agenda, collaboration, and support. There are probably different opinions about the housing policy agenda in Nigeria, but the facts are while we are often inadequately or not robust enough, at various times, our government have proposed policies for housing. For instance, in the two main government policies of the current government, the one in the ERGP, and of course the current ESP, which is the Economic Sustainability Plan. Housing is indicated as a major priority for government. Therefore, it seems to me that the problem is not solely about the policy, whether it is good or whether it is bad. It is majorly about the implementation or the coming together of stakeholders in this sector to practice, to want to be able to work together and effect all these policies, and making sure that affordable housing is a reality in our society. So it is this reason why, as a nation, where it applies to various countries, actually, it's just not in Nigeria, we are building way too few housing to meet the housing needs. The execution capability of our housing system is simply too weak. So this takes us to the need for the collaboration which we are talking about today, in terms of building collaboration to support the affordable housing agenda. A lot of things have been mentioned about the collaboration by the past speakers. The first person talked about different types of collaboration. We talked about the PPP, different collaboration among the people that are even in the sector and the people that are not in the sector. Our guy here as well spoke to the collaboration when it comes to that in this sector by a foundation and other people coming together and making sure that affordable housing, for which they have been able to reach 1,000 unit mark in 15 years, which is quite a long time. They've been able to realize that, but that's some form of collaboration as well. The collaboration I would like to speak to will be talking about the government and the private sector, which is the public and private sector collaboration. This type of collaboration has been achievable in other countries. It's achievable in Australia, in the parts of Europe as well. You see that there's this type of collaboration. So if we explore the United Kingdom, for example, government plays a major role, but that is limited to creating policy and regulatory environment for delivery of affordable housing through the Ministry of Housing and Dedicated Agency, which they call Homes England. The government planning department is required by law to ensure that adequate land is available and dedicated for affordable housing based on data on housing need. In the same vein, developers focus on delivery of housing in many cases, specializing in specific market segments. This market segment was actually mentioned earlier in the earlier presentation that was made. And on the financing side, mortgage providers focus on ensuring availability of mortgages, limiting the exit risk of developers. This matter of collaboration, to my mind, is perhaps one of the biggest issues we must address in the housing system in Nigeria today. For the affordable housing agenda to make a meaningful impact, there must be a synergy of all stakeholders working together as a team and building support for the affordable housing agenda. Then it takes us to the questions which are, what will good quality collaboration, what will it look like for us? How can we deliver effective collaboration among the key stakeholders in the housing system? What should be its structure? How will it be funded? And of course, how should it actually work? These are very big questions, and I cannot do justice to those questions in the limited time that I have. So what I will do is just to take one aspect of the collaboration and make a series of suggestions. At the very effects of the kind of collaboration we need is a partnership between the public and private sector. It is extremely unlikely that we can achieve or make much progress without significant improvement in the collaboration between the two sectors, that is the public and the private sector. The partnership between public and private sector must actually give way to envy. We must be able to look at it that we are working towards a common goal and we are not working against each other. So we must be able to come together, the public and private sector, to deal with this crisis that we have on hand. The public sector must embrace the responsibility to create enabling environments, including land, statutory approvals, financing, developers in incentive, standards, and consumer protection. And on the other hand, the private sector must bring discipline and innovation to the design and construction of homes. So how can we make this work in practice? Here are some provocative suggestions that I would like to make. The Octo 5 MD, who spoke in the morning, said we have a crisis on our hand, which means it is urgent and is something we need to deal with. We cannot continue to be practicing it the same way because of the large number of deficits we have, whether we agree to the number or we do not agree. The fact remains that there's a deficit and it keeps growing. So this has turned it to be a crisis on our hand. So there is need for us to begin to take drastic steps to resolve these issues. So I'm going to make some sort of a crisis response suggestions to say, is it possible for us to begin to establish a working group of stakeholders who are committed to supporting the affordable housing agenda? This working group must engage in joint planning towards the creation of affordable housing at different levels of society, be it at the federal level, be it at state level, be it at regional, or whether we want to say it's at zonal level, even at community level, just as mentioned by the last speaker that just spoke before I stood up. So we need to look at that, local government council down to the community levels. This joint planning must be intentionally geared towards establishing a framework for inclusive development that can be cascaded to the lowest strata of the society in terms of achieving the affordable housing agenda. Also, we can look, another suggestion I would like to make is we can consider each state setting up a state affordable housing commissions as a public and private partnership between state governments and organized sector development. The academia, the main landowner, the building material, all these people can actually come together under this affordable housing commission to work together for us to be able to achieve this goal. The commission, which should be jointly managed by private and public sector, will be led by a representative of the board, including all stakeholders with leadership by rotation. So if it's government that is leading this time, then someone from the private sector can lead at the next time. But the point here is there has to be a proper governance structure that is going to make sure that all challenges is usually envisaged in the public sector and the private sectors are actually addressed. The commission is to be funded by, another challenge could be the funding issue, which it could be funded by modest subscription by stakeholders, grants, government subventions, private sector contribution as well. One tool that can be used to achieve the required funding challenge is to set up a housing fund. So states can begin to set up their own housing fund with specific purpose of creating and preserving housing for low and moderate income individuals within the states. The Housing Trust Fund, which can be managed by a non-profit organization. The trust fund can also be capitalized by philanthropic organizations, commercial banks like AFDB can be some sort of support for that kind of trust fund. The emphasis of the fund will be on the provision of affordable housing to low-income households, especially for home ownership opportunities. In order to achieve this practically, the commission as well can be a one-stop center for affordable housing. So we know there are key issues on affordable, which is common to everywhere in the world in terms of land, in terms of funding, in terms of material. But if the commission can function as a one-stop center, which will be designed and fitted to address these cardinal issues that contributes to the affordability, its key responsibility, which could include to carry out a housing needs study every 5 years, ongoing capacity building and training programs, ensuring the planning system set aside adequate land to meet housing need for by allocating land specifically for affordable housing and regeneration, including slums. Because some challenges we have as well is we say we want affordable housing, people seldomly will take them to inside the bush. The land in the city is too expensive for us to be able to build houses that are cheap. But if land are specifically allocated during planning for affordable housing, then we know that the issue or the problem of land is going to be sorted. This particular commission can handle that. Some of their roles can be managing and facilitating the trust fund in conjunction with government issuing long-term bonds. Their function can include providing independent statistics and data on annual housing delivery, regulations of developers, so that they can maintain the quality and the standard of the housing, consumer protection, among others. Basically, the work of the commission will be to distill the policies that has been made by the public sector into execution, which is majorly the implementation, which is majorly the problem. So these suggestions are just suggestions, but at least that we need to do, there is need. We all understand the need for us to take steps towards and something radical steps towards the need to get the results that we want about achieving the affordable housing for low and medium income houses. So I welcome everybody to debate these options. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kemi. That was quite disruptive. Suggestions that I'm sure that we need to dimension and begin to implement, and then begin to see how we're going to do that. We have heard from the presenters, and then we have Kemi coming in with the fact that the problem is not in the policy, but it's in the collaborative implementation, and that's a very beautiful takeaway, and the need for us to have an inclusive solution around a governance structure that can deliver on all those issues, and then having one coming in clearly, segmenting the collaborations, defining the collaborators, and then segmenting them to the supply side, demand side, and then clearly enunciating and informing us of ADB roles, and then the key issues of some takeaways that we should have on the issue of policy, and then decentralization and having satellite cities deliberately. And then we also had Suleiman taking us through to some of what they have done to be able to prove to us that the issue of collaboration in terms of energy provision is something that is right here with us, both in Abuja and Lagos. They have some apartments that are running off the grid, and then integrating edge concept into our design, though that the initial cost may be high, but as we go along, you find out that the cost tapers down and becomes more sustainable than what we do have now. And then also we had Samodia coming in with so many other issues concerning the wasting assets we have because of lack of title. They cannot take it to the market. They cannot finance anything because they don't have title. The banks will require as collateral. And then also the challenges we have with the issue of affordability, the issue of offtake from the financing, and then the constraints imposed upon us by the Land Use Act. And then also the fact that over 80% of our population, adult population, earn less than 50,000 naira a month. And that's why food for thought. Sam, you also gave the statistic that you are celebrating the 1,000th house being done by Mila. That got me thinking. and he said you got to the 1,000th house in 15 years. That was quite interesting for me. That tells us the need for collaboration. Because if with all your effort and all that you have sacrificed and suffering, you are just hitting the 1,000th house in 15 years, that's 60 housing units a year. That is something that should trigger some disruptive thinking in us to find how we can upscale our individual silo efforts and then gain more traction so that together each achieves more. Also, I want to thank you, Odunayo. You were able to come in forcefully by defining the affordability issues, the policy issues, and the manpower issues, and coming on also to look at the PPP, public-private partnership, and also private-private partnership, and the need for the collaborations across various levels, and then to leverage on our strength. That was one of the key statements you brought out clearly, so that we can have ease of doing business, a one-stop shop, reduction in the transaction time and transaction cost among such PPP, public-private partnership. And then also you were able to point out some of the issues of regulations that needs to be tidied. I would like to leave it out now for questions and see whether we have, you can take one or two questions from, I have quite some, okay, we have one here from Prof. We have one right
Mr.
there.
Chairman, please, we'll take 2 questions for the want of time. 2 questions, please.
Okay. I will now leave it to you to choose.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman, please. Just
I should
choose.
choose.
Yes, sir.
Choose. I don't know. Is there a lady that is raising her hand? So let's be gender friendly. Yes, we'll take the lady. And then, okay. Prof, you will have your slot. That is the chairman's discretion. They say 2. Then the chairman is giving discretion. Yes. So have the lady, then we'll have you, and then we'll have the prof.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I want to say a very big thank you to all the panelists seated
Thank
for
you.
all the presentation made so far. And from all that we've shared this afternoon, we've discovered that we have a great deficit in the housing industry. And I also want to say that the issue of collaboration is very, very key, because every industry is looking at collaboration, how they can achieve more. And that's what we're looking at. But I also want to say, like Mr. Samuel, who talked about the tiny homes. And we've also mentioned that the urban area is packed up, is heated up. And we are looking at moving into the rural areas. And looking at the insecurity in the country is making it almost impossible for people to go into the rural area. So what are we looking at? Looking at the security issues in terms of moving to those areas. Yes, our sister had earlier talked about government allocating areas for community housing and making it more lucrative for people to live in there by getting in things into those areas. But how is government really responding to all these things, including the tax issues that we have and the land usage of usage tax, of lands and all that? So how is government really looking at these issues to make it comfortable for developers to actually engage in this housing that we're looking at? And coming to our brother who also talked about energy.
That will be the last one. So we are asking 3 questions.
All right, talking about energy. Yeah, it still boils down on government making it affordable for people, making it affordable for developers to actually engage into this thing. But I quite agree with you that developers should begin to look at creating that in their design to create a portion for solar energy so that when it's time to install it, it's easy for people to install it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll have the gentleman here, please, and then.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My questions go to 2 people. First, Suleiman Yusuf. I think I would just say we'll discuss privately. And then the second question goes to Kemi Shijuade. Am I right? I've been in this conference since yesterday, and you have said the most disruptive thing that I've heard so far. Every of us that are in this place, we all live in cities, most of us. We work in cities, most of us. The center of our cities, maybe give or take, are close to like 70% slums. Maybe outside Abuja. The center of the major districts in Lagos, whether it is Ikeja, whether it is Surulere, whether it is even Lagos Island, 70% of the built-up area, they are slums. Yet you find the developers will move away from that city centers where it's best for people to live in, because it is close to their children's schools, it is close to hospitals that already exist. They will move away from those centers and go put all of the money, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers away, at the fringes of those cities and major towns. So what you have said is very provocative, is very disruptive. I would like to take you up on it also. Now to my question, is there already a platform for the states? Are we going to be reaching out to maybe the Nigerian Governors Forum to set up these state affordable housing commissions? And as you suggested, how quickly can we enable this? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the privilege. My question goes to Yusuf. In the implementation of your renewable energy solutions, are you using the National Building Energy Efficiency Code, which was released in 2017? And if not, why aren't you volunteering? At the moment, it's still voluntary. I have a few copies of it available for those who are interested. And I'll start with you if you're not using it already. It's absolutely essential for building envelopes that meet the renewable energy requirements of the future. And of course, for saving. And for Mr. Odia, Architect Odia, that's equally important for these 1 million naira houses to ensure that going forward, they're sustainable in the use of energy, and they're also sustainable in terms of the cost implications for the occupiers. As we see the power costs go up, we see it becoming more of an affordability problem as well for the masses.
Okay, thank you so much. I'd like to apologize to others who wanted to ask questions, and we'll be giving 30 minutes to each of the speakers to please round up. 30 minutes. 30 seconds, sorry. sorry. Please don't kill me. I know there was a lot of opposition to that. Please, 30 seconds, please.
Okay, I'll just start by answering Prof. Nyangete's question. We are looking very closely at building green energy efficient buildings. It's right on the front burner at the Millard Fuller Foundation. We are actually working on a building at the moment, and very soon we shall be announcing progress in that area. Yes, so it's on the front burner.
Please,
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your question. I think the reason why the 70% is a bit congested in the center is because of the infrastructure. If we have infrastructure, we have road, we have water, we have lights in the suburbs, people will definitely live there. And one way is, okay, maybe there's a company there or there's a government office there that can open up the space, then it reduces the pressure in the center. However, your question, sir, it's about if there's a platform for the state. The whole essence of this gathering, I believe, is for us to have a talk about this and see how do we begin to move forward. So if we have been able to get provocative enough in our thoughts, then we decide what next. I believe that the organizers of the shows, by the time they come forward with their communique, they will be able to come and say, okay, maybe this is the next step for us to take. I am not aware if there's a platform already for states to be able to do this, but I believe that if we take steps towards that, if it is the right direction, then we should be able to achieve it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry. Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I don't want to reiterate the need to move away from silo regime to community housing, a situation we can address some of the issues you raised. When you have a community housing with infrastructures and social amenities, then it becomes a comfortable home for everyone. If you don't want to live, you don't want to work in that neighborhood, you can jump into a train in the morning and go to work, and jump into a train in the evening and go back home. That's one thing. The other issue is, in terms of collaboration, is financing. When you go solo, large financial institutions have very limited appetite to deal with small deals. When you bring a mega deal sponsored by multiple stakeholders, become more attractive to have access to cheap funding for your project. The other issue has to do with reforms that Nigeria need. I hope some of these government officials, we are talking about them as citizens, because they don't have time to attend some of these things. Possibly like attending funeral ceremony than attending highly educating forum, like don't see them around here. If they are here, reform from land acquisition up to maintenance of housing, to collaborate all the way, including policies and implementation. Thank you.
So just to round off, I would like to say the main essence of conferences like this is to bring up these kind of ideas. So I think if we've achieved anything, is that we've stimulated the thoughts and the debates have started. However, I will also say that so many states actually have initiatives that we need to be familiar with and also explore. I will give an example of Lagos State, at least, that I know of, has an office for PPP. There's a PPP office that is run by somebody who was formerly in the private sector, was a very senior person at PwC, running that office. And all we need to do is just continue to engage with them and give them ideas. And I think at the end of the day, we'll make progress. Thank you.
Then we'll take from Suleiman.
Okay, thank you very much for the questions. Let me start with the first question. The lady who mentioned about government making it affordable. I've grown into adulthood in this country, waiting for government to solve some problems for the past 30 years, and I'm not willing to wait for government to solve any more problems. Otherwise, those problems will never be seen. So when I talk about collaboration, I'm talking about collaboration between the private sector and the private sector, not the private and the public. Between the energy developers and the construction or the building industry, we can collaborate and solve the energy problems of this country. That's the angle from which I look at it. Secondly, on the issue on the design aspect, simple collaboration, of course, with the use of internet makes a lot of things easy. For example, in my website, all you need to do if you're developing a project is just to give me your project design, send me your architectural drawing, and I have a team of young people who will respond and tell you what your electrician needs to do in providing for cabling, needs and other, infrastructures that will accommodate your solar. So that's the kind of collaboration we're looking at to move this industry forward and to solve our energy problems. Now, on the NBEEC, codes, thank you for bringing that up. Believe me, I was part of the making of that document, but I have not laid my hands on the, I only have the draft copy when it was in the making. So I really love to have that from you, and we will encourage builders to add that. Thank you so much.
I'd like to, on behalf of the organizers, to thank the awesome presentations by the panelists, and also to ask some key questions. How many PPPs can we have before the next Abuja International Housing Show? And how can we develop them? 2, who should lead and sustain the public-private partnership component of our discussion? Are there low-hanging fruits in our sector that we can synergize on and see? Can we also, number 4, itemize the benefits that are accruable so that it can be an enticing thing for both those who are in the private sector and then the public sector that like cutting tips and then declaring, commissioning things. So we can look at what the benefits are accruable to all the participants and be able to present this as a working document from our engagement today. On behalf of all of us, I'd like to thank you so much, Samodia. Thank you so much, Sijado. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And thank you, Odunayan. And thank you, Suleiman, for being such wonderful presenters and giving us food for thought. Thank you so much, and God bless you. We'll be able to stand a few minutes here without our listening and take a photograph, and then we can get on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you.
Cameraman, please. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for them, please. Thank you very much, Reverend Severo Ugochukwu Chime.